Hi, Scorpio. Welcome to your September 2015 love spread. It's Raina here. I'm doing these for the first time this month, and I'm really having a great time. I'm really surprised at how much fun these are. And so basically, these are general readings, and they are really for people who are either looking for a relationship or in an unsatisfactory relationship. So so the card that I picked for you that describes your current situation is the Queen of Cups. And Cups cards relate to water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces individuals. And it's all about being a sensitive person, a loving person, a psychic person. And whether you're single and looking or you are in a marriage that is unhappy, or like a live-in situation that's unhappy, long-term partnership, this card means that perhaps you are too empathetic and you allow yourself to be manipulated by another person because they are troubled in some way. Maybe they have an addiction, maybe they can't keep a job, they're always unhappy, there's always something wrong, and you're trying to make it better because you feel sorry for them. You know that kind of dynamic that can occur. And this card is kind of just letting you know that this is why you're in this pickle, If you're single and you don't have a partner, maybe you are so sensitive that it's very hard for you to even gather up the nerve to approach other people, or you find yourself constantly in those type of relationships where you're the one that is trying to heal the other person. And I will say that you are like the Queen of Cups, you are a healing person, but even healers don't actually heal other people. They enable the person to heal themselves. And this card is also suggesting that you have to learn to be empathetic without sitting in someone else's shite. And I thank the Scottish people for allowing me to say something vulgar in a less vulgar way, at least from my American vantage point. We can have compassion and not have to suffer along with somebody else. As a matter of fact, if you remain detached, you can be of better service to others. But you are naturally psychic, naturally an empath. So you're naturally going to feel that deep connection with others. Maybe you have to learn how to kind of protect your energy better. The universe wants you to know, and I picked the Four of Swords. So the Four of Swords is about going on a retreat. I I always say spa day, but that's too superficial. This is more of a reflection time, going within, being contemplative. There are places like ashrams and even Catholic organizations that provide some sort of retreat center that you can go to at a nominal cost. And it seems to me that many times these are in rural areas so that you can get that benefit of nature and you can commune with nature. So that is a definite possibility. And you might even want to go on an extended retreat. This is definitely a time to plan out how you want your future to unfold. But this is not a time to seek other people's 2 cents or input. This is a time for you to go within. It kind of reminds me of the Hermit card in the Major Arcana, and I think they're connected. The two advice cards are the Three of Swords and the Knight of Swords. So I picked three Swords cards in a row out of the five. Swords cards represent conflict, but they also represent air signs. and using head over heart, the heart being the Queen of Cups, the first card I picked. So the Three of Swords represents cutting something to the quick. Now, since it's advice, it means that you might need to just cut something off. Do not let it linger. Stop the bleeding. So if you're on again, off again, you need to be off again permanently. Maybe, possibly. This is a general reading, but it might mean that you're just delaying the inevitable and you need to let it go. It could mean that you are grieving, and because this card shows a sorrow, a grief, it may mean that you have to acknowledge this grief that you're experiencing in order to move on. With the Knight of Swords, this could mean that you need to get lawyered up, that you need to actually find a lawyer and get divorced. But it can also just mean that you need to apply logic to your situation, that you need to be more in the intellect than the heart chakra. But these two cards really suggest that, but these two cards really advise detachment if you are embroiled in an emotional drama. If you are single, the Three of Swords may represent a grief that has not been healed, that may go back decades. This may be a parent who died when you were young. It seems that there is a significant death in a lot of water signs' lives in childhood that affects them greatly. And it could be the father a lot of times. And if not an actual death and abandonment, and this may be a wound that has never quite healed and is what is keeping you from attracting a partner who is viable, and that you need to take care of this. And you don't have to necessarily do it a traditional way. You might do it through some kind of energy work like Reiki. That Four of Swords again. You might go on retreat, a meditation retreat, go to an ashram and take a meditation course and learn how to still your mind and learn how to heal yourself by learning how to detach. And when you detach, you get a more universal perspective, because Scorpio is a fixed water sign and you tend to be very, I don't want to say the word prejudiced, but you are very subjective in your outlook on life. So you, whatever happens to you personally, you tend to project onto future situations. And so you can be that person who had a parent abandon you as a child, and then every person, potential partner in the future, you project that abandonment on, and you have kind of an unconscious anger towards, and it reflects that, or you become excessively controlling. Scorpio has sometimes a problem with jealousy, suspicion, accusing people of cheating because of abandonment issues, sometimes from childhood. And these are things that can wreck any relationship that you're in, because people do not like to be falsely accused. They don't want somebody who doesn't trust them. So I would definitely heed these words and really kind of detach from the situation. And sometimes you need instruction on how to do that, especially as a water sign. So there are places that you can go in a spiritual sense to learn how to view life from a more universal perspective, objective perspective, so that your pain body doesn't always come back to bite you and to cause you to act in ways that you don't want to act. And then the outcome, if you take this advice, is the Five of Wands. And this is kind of a funny card to get as an outcome, because in my Anthony Lewis Tarot Plain and Simple book, it's described as a mock battle. And so with those swords cards, I really connect a very almost like this turbulent energy to it. But it can be that you are really saying, bring it on. If you're, let's say, going to court, like some of you might be, you might have decided enough is enough. I am taking this person to court, and you're like, bring it on. And you have no problems whatsoever in staking your claim and in fighting for your rights. But this is not necessarily going to be like that for everyone. For some of you, it just means that you're going to be competing for someone's affections, and you're going to do so willingly, and it's going to be almost an enjoyable kind of a jousting match because you think that you're right for this other person. Remember that Scorpio is not only ruled by Pluto, but also by Mars. And Mars is a very competitive type of energy. It's an energy of doing battle. So it's a very energetic reading. I think the only card that we can say is really restful is the Four of Swords. And it kind of speaks to kind of going within. And then you're going to be, some of you will be either leaving a relationship or fighting for it if you have a rival. But of course, it's an open battle. It's not something where you're being devious and vengeful and secretive. Scorpios can be very secretive, and the shadow side of Scorpio is vengefulness. And so you don't want to do that because Scorpio is actually a very noble sign. The only thing that you have to transcend are those very deeply felt emotions that are extremely subjective based upon things that might have happened to you that you felt were wrong, that you project onto people that have nothing to do with the situation. When you can heal from past hurts, then you can be healing to other people and you can have wonderfully satisfying, rich relationships. So, Scorpio, if you found this reading at all useful and you'd like a more personalized love reading that takes into account your birth data, where I look at your natal chart and the houses and planets that relate to your love nature, as well as some of the current energy that is occurring in your love life, along with this sort of tarot spread, you can just click on the link below and it will take you to my website and give you more information there. Otherwise, I wish you a wonderful September. Take care. Bye.